Well. Hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully I can remember how to YouTube. Who knows? Hello, everybody. How's it going? I'm going to turn my camera on in a minute. Welcome. Hello. This is exciting. YouTube and things. Right. Let's do it. Booyah. Hello. Why do I look such an odd colour? God, this camera is the worst. Hi. Hello. Welcome to hosting Ask Me Anything. How are you guys doing? Yeah, I did have a moment of like, how do I do YouTube again? How do I? Yeah, anyway, so I figured it out. It's fine. Although Streamlabs confused me for a minute or two. Hello, welcome. This is fun. It's not very purple here. How's everybody going? Who we got in the chat? Oh, the crew is here. Welcome, crew. Streamy crew, how's it going? Pac-Man's own Julia Hardy. Oh, God, I'm never going to live the Pac-Man thing down, am I? Yeah, so welcome. Hi, everybody. Basically, I have a really silly job, and I was thinking a lot about it recently, and I thought to myself, I've been doing this for a while, and I've made some terrible errors, and I've done some good stuff, and I've done some stupid things because I never really had any guidance or like people like not really helping me. I had to sort of figure out quite a lot myself. So I thought it'd be, as everyone is kind of doing a lot more kind of on-camera stuff more and more these days, I thought that maybe it would be a useful thing to, if you have any questions about doing anything on camera, like whatever that is, whatever kind of hosting that is, just don't ask me about Twitch and YouTube because I suck at them. So just don't ask me about that. I don't know anything about that. But anything else, like in the real world, whatever, yeah, let me know and we can start going through like some questions. But I just wanted to kind of say hello to everybody. Hey, oh yeah, the whole crew is here. How exciting. Sid, remember we used to swap between YouTube and Twitch? Yeah. Oh my God, I'm just the worst at everything. Oh, thanks, Edward. Nice to have you here. Hey, Shane. Hey, Dave. Hey, everybody. Hey, Adam. Hey, you Spoony Bard. Hey, Daniel. I can't go through everyone. There's so many. I was about to ask about the Pac-Man. Yes, Fernando. I did stream Pac-Man for about 3 years on Twitch because I couldn't change the game setting. It just wouldn't change. I'm not stupid. I did try and change it. It didn't change for ages. And then one day it magically changed. And everyone's like, why aren't you playing Pac-Man? Anyway. Everyone here is the crew. It's all good. Stephen. Right. Hello, welcome. This is Ask Me Anything about hosting, about presenting. So I've got some questions that people have already asked already. But like I'll keep an eye on the chat and see if there's any that come up. But like I asked a few on stories today, so let me just pull these out. Sorry, just bear with me one sec. Sorry. Let me turn the volume down. You don't need to hear my nonsense. Okay, let's see what questions you've got here to start with. Vlix4 says, I'm not really sure what this has got to do with presenting, but whatever, we'll do it. Are you and Tom Hardy from the same family? Well, technically, I do have a Tom Hardy in my family, but it's not him. Ian Jinx asks, how do you deal when things don't go as planned when you do live? So this actually happens a lot. Nothing ever really goes to plan in the way that you think it will a lot of the time, especially when kind of live is involved, especially if you're doing video game stuff, just because technology and games doesn't always work. So like a lot of the time, what's the best version of this story I could tell? Okay, one of the worst times, well, first of all, not panicking is a really, really useful tool, which is easier said than done. There was a time when I was hosting the KSI Logan Paul boxing match, the one at Manchester Arena. And we're about to go live, about 3 minutes, I'm ringside, about to go live. I'm supposed to have these two boxers with me so I can, explain boxing and stuff like that to everyone who's like watching the stream. I don't know boxing. I just know the guys. Like, I don't know boxing. So I'm not going to be able to like fill time. And like one of them couldn't like turn up, and then the other one just like wasn't there, and it was like 3 minutes to live, and I was standing there, and I was like, I said to the director, I was like, so could you just tell me again how many minutes before I throw to the casters of the match? And he was like, 8 minutes, and I was like, fuck. I mean, I can bullshit about 3 minutes with like no knowledge of anything, 3 tops. Even then, that's a stretch. But I was like, 8 minutes. There's just not a chance that that can happen. And so I was kind of like freaking out a little bit, and it's like now like 2 minutes to live, and I was basically just like, find me anybody. I don't care like who they are, but just like anyone who's got any experience in any way, shape or form and understands boxing that I can ask questions to. And they sort of like went off and managed to find this guy. I think his name was Spencer or something. And then he came back, and then it was fine, because as long as you've got someone to kind of talk to, you can sort of get out kind of like what you need really out of those things. So I think the most important thing is not to panic. I've been asked really specific questions when I used to do Sky News. I used to do like a tech thing on a Friday on Sky News. And one time I got asked, because it was not just consumer tech, it was like, hey, someone's going to the Arctic and they use radar. And I was like, oh God, they're gonna ask me how like radar works or something. Things like that. So I used to like kind of over prepare, but I got asked a really specific question about technology. And I didn't know what the answer was. And I was like, it's like live on Sky News. I'm like, it's a direct question. It's like, how does this thing work? And I was like, I could not bullshit my way through this question. So I basically said, oh, it's a really interesting question that, but I think what's probably more important to answer is like this, and then talked about something else that I knew. And it was like a really important moment, I think, in my career of like knowing that, I can kind of bullshit my way when I don't know the answer to things, which I feel like is a really important skill that like everybody should learn. And afterwards I spoke to the host, and I was like, oh God, yeah, I didn't know the answer to that question. And like, she was just like, no, it happens all the time. And then another friend of mine who worked at Sky News was saying like, oh, if you ever see, you know, sometimes on like live broadcasts, you'll see someone go like, oh, sorry, like I just lost you there. But what I can tell you is this. And it's usually when there's been a question asked that they don't know the answer to. So rather than obviously saying, I don't know the answer to that, they're just like, oh, I just lost you there, and then answer something else. So you can kind of deflect. That was like a really useful thing to go. But lots of things go wrong on live. And I think just sort of, I mean, you have to address it sometimes when these things happen. But yeah, not like freaking out, trying to be sort of fairly good spirited with it. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing presenting, you've probably got a certain degree of bullshit and just chit chat in you. So just find a way to like focus on something else, you know. Yeah, I've been asked to like fill like 5 minutes of time before, which can be difficult. You know, these things happen. Right, wait, hold on. I had some other questions here. Hold on. Where were they? Wait, let me check chat before I get to like these other ones. So anyway, hi everybody. I'm just going to go through the chat. Right. Okay, let me go to there's some questions in here somewhere. Shane has a question that's not about hosting or presenting. Well, it depends what the question is, Shane, but ask it and we'll see. Thank you, JR. Please, Miss, I have a question, maybe. Hey, Spinadum, how you doing? Oh, okay, sorry, Luke. Did you ask one right at the back? Oh, God, I had that moment of like, it's going to delete everything. Do you prefer the variety of lots of different hosting roles or the longevity of a long-term contract role, or is it just nice to have a mix? So this was a question I had to like answer like really early on. Because in gaming, there were a lot of opportunities to kind of like go and work for like a company and kind of do presenting within that, which is great. Stability and a regular paycheck are wonderful. If you have that, it's glorious, right? But I kind of made a specific decision that I wanted to try and push gaming kind of more mainstream. I mean, not that it needs to be pushed mainstream, but to sort of like get it in more kind of mainstream avenues, which ultimately meant sort of being freelance and trying out different jobs. I'm also quite, whilst I like sort of, you know, having like a team that I work with, which is great, you know, like Gran Turismo, I see the same guys all the time, and that's really nice. You feel like part of a family. Same with like Xbox work, that's really nice. It's, you know, part of a family, that kind of thing. But I do love the ability to kind of like go and work on different things, because it's presenting, there are so many different skills involved in it. Like there are so many different techniques and ways of doing it that like unless you're kind of constantly sort of like pushing to try new things, it's really easy to get complacent. I used to have a weird thing about people's names. I'd freak out about saying people's names, or like when I first started, like I didn't like not having like some sort of cue card in my hands. It was like a, you know, but you can kind of, like you can sort of push yourself. Each job that you do that's different will kind of push you and teach you like slightly something different. So I like that aspect. I like coming away feeling like I've done something different. I love working with different people. I love getting the opportunity to, I just like asking the questions. I like being the questioner. It's great. And presenting is such a, and hosting is such a wonderful way to just meet so many different types of people in lots of different jobs that, yeah. So the dream, basically, Luke, is to have freelance life, but with long-term contracts, but not specifically for one company, which is what I have now, which is like I get repeat work from lots of places that I love to work for, plus I get lots of other little freelance bits and pieces in between. That's the best version, in my opinion. But then if you'd asked me that like 6 years ago, I was like, why didn't I just take like a job, you know, with a regular paycheck and la la la, you know? So it depends at what point of my career you asked me that question. But now I'm like, I have no doubt in my mind that I made absolutely like the right decision. Oh, thank you, Ottoman. Right, let me see, what other questions have I missed? Let me look. Is it the same Julia Hardy from the Olympic virtual series? Yes, you might notice my hair's a slightly different colour because I'm not in a giant green room. What other questions have I missed? Ottoman, I was promised I could ask anything. That's true, actually. You can ask anything. I mean, whether I answer it or not, depending on what the question is, but I'm happy to answer whatever question. It hasn't necessarily always got to be about that. Is crew British slang for something? No, you're just part of like a team, a crew sort of thing. Okay, Bertie Action wants to know, I just started streaming. I have the Elgato HD60. What else should be my next purchase? I guess like getting a good mic, but I'm really not the best person at like streaming and Twitch. You all know this. I'm so lo-fi. Yeah. But yeah, probably a good mic is the best thing. Because I think like, as long as you've got good audio, I think audio to me is more important than visuals of like someone's face. Maybe I'm just not that bothered about my own face. Okay, Jan. I've hosted stuff before a few times, but I always get terrified just before each event. Does that ever go away? I literally can't remember what happens on stage just before my turn. Okay, so Jan, it's completely normal to be terrified on stage. Like, it's weird if you're not terrified on stage. Like, that's an anomaly. Definitely, for a long period at the start, I was very nervous to kind of be on stage. My theory with a lot of presenting stuff is that the way you get rid of the nerves is just to do it and then do it and then do it again, where you get to the point where not that it's boring, but it's just that you've done it 1,000 times before, so you can sort of tell yourself like, come on, you've done this before. And then once you can tell yourself that, it's so much easier to kind of like deal with. But I would say one of the biggest things, the best things you can ever learn, and this is not just about presenting, we talk about this a lot on Friday Feels, but like is breathing techniques to calm you down. So you can either do box breathing or the one that I prefer, which is it's like in for 4, hold for 1, out for 8, hold for 1. So in for 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4, hold the breath, and then breathe out for 8, and then hold for 1. And if you do that and just concentrate on this like 4-8 structure, right, making sure you break the breath in between just for a moment to sort of, because when you're nervous, you don't realize that like your heart might not be like jumping out of your chest, but your heart rate will be increased and your breathing rate will be increased. And I remember once, what event was it? I can't remember. Yeah, it was definitely before I was going out on stage somewhere. I can't remember which event it was, but I was slightly freaking out. And every time, if I'm nervous, whether I'm going on stage, whether I'm doing a job, whether it's anything in life that I'm slightly freaking out about, honestly, doing the in for 4, hold for 1, out for 8, hold for 1. And if you forget this, I can just like tweet me or whatever, and I can repeat it back to you. But like, it's just like a, right? And it looks like you're not doing anything. And when you're doing it, you're like, this is stupid. And like, it's not doing anything. But weirdly, all of a sudden, about 30 seconds later, like your brain feels able to kind of cope with stuff. It's not like, you know, when it's like, and it just chills you out. So it's the best thing to do, honestly, Jan, before you go on stage. Trust me, it will work. Works every single time. Maximiliano, what insects are you afraid of? Um, I mean, I'm not like a massive fan of insects. I'm not like afraid of any of them. I mean, unless it was like a white, transparent scorpion that I knew was going to kill me, then I'd probably be afraid. But I feel like that's quite rightly so because death. Yeah. Ottoman, basically fake it until you make it. A lot of work and a lot of life is kind of about that. A lot of jobs, you figure out how you do it by doing it, you know, and especially with something like presenting. I mean, you can sort of practice the techniques at home, like a bit, but like until you're sort of like in the moment and you're having to sort of think quickly on the fly, you can do a lot of training and you can do a lot of prep, but it's just easier to like do it and then, yeah, figure it out like on the job. How did you first get into presenting or hosting events? My first ever presenting gig was for a rock music channel, and I used to interview bands, and I did that for ages, interviewed like hundreds of bands. I also did like a review show on that, where me and my co-host would like talk about like music gigs that were happening that week, and movies that were coming out, and also video games because I like video games. So that was the first time I ever really did anything about video games. And then that channel kind of like folded, and then I auditioned for a show on Bravo called Game Face. And yeah, and then I got that job and did that for like a while. And then off the back of that, it was actually Warner Brothers. I think the first event I ever did, was it the very first? It was like a Mortal Kombat event. Wait, I'm trying to get this. It was either one at like a games event where I had to like kind of like weirdly cast over Mortal Kombat. I don't really know what I was doing. And then there was one at like Warner Brothers HQ as well with like Ed Boon was there and there was like no floor manager and I didn't know what I was doing. But you know, you figure these things out like on the day. Just I didn't know whether we'd cut off live. I was just like, I'm just going to stop talking and hopefully someone will cut away. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into it. The job for Bravo was just like a random open casting call, basically, in some sort of like website called like Star Now or something stupid like that. Because it like, I don't really have, like my parents don't do anything interesting. And when I first got started into like presenting and hosting, it wasn't like you could just tweet someone and like follow someone and find out what they're doing. Like unless you physically bumped into someone by accident, it was like impossible to meet people. So yeah, it was just a random open casting call. And like honestly, going on like one of those sites was like really depressing. But I was like, I literally have no way. I don't know how else to like get into the industry because I don't know anyone. So yeah. Wait, what did it just jump? What happened to that question? I just saw a question. Okay. Fernando asks, I know you did this Game Changed My Life. Great podcast, by the way. Thank you. Is audio hosting something you like more or equal to the whole camera thingy? Doing just audio can be really liberating. I feel like I can be more myself in a way, because when you're on camera there's a certain degree I'm always thinking about like, well, I can't like turn away and do this and that because they need to like, I need to stand here and I need to do it in a certain way, and it's always like obviously you're yourself but you're not like fully free. Oh sorry, if you've never listened to me stream before, I have the loudest stream in the whole world. Yeah, it's I do enjoy it. I think you can have a lot of fun with your voice. I do like playing around with my voice like a lot. I think I'd love to do more because it's really intimate voice. Like when you're doing kind of on camera stuff, like it's great and you can ask people lots of questions and you can do visually really fun things. But it's also like having that like intimacy of like being really close in someone's ear is just, it's like a whole different level, and you can hear absolutely everything like in my voice and everything. You know that kind of Jennifer Hale grade voice, right, where it's just like all the little subtleties that you can hear. Yeah, that's fun. Super fun. So yeah, you can do kind of like a lot of stuff with that. Hello, Sean. What is the function of a rubber duck? Well, I don't know. Black Sand, what do you miss most about presenting live in the before times? Oh my God, the travel, because travel was great. And you know, you get to like meet some cool people, like go and hang out in like different countries and stuff like that. But no, actually, well, yeah, it is travel, but it's also just getting to be in the same room. And what's happened sort of since like things have started happening with this, not everything's like live anymore. So I miss all of those things. I miss going and hanging out with the Xbox guys at different events. You know, I miss taking all of the Gran Turismo competitors like all over the world and hanging out with them and watching them race their little hearts out. And it's just, yeah. So yeah, I miss that a lot. Edward, how did I get the foot in the door? It was, so Dave's question, it was an absolute fluke. Like it was a total fluke. Weirdly, it was a PlayStation competition, actually. I've been fucking around doing this PlayStation competition, which I won because I'm amazing. Anyway, I've been messing around with some of my friends making stupid videos, a lot of which was just me dressed up as Batman, going around my local town and standing on rooftops. Don't do that. Anyway, we did this like really stupid like fake MTV show as part of these like weird vlogs I was doing for a summer. And I had my mate, Paul was involved in this. And I was pretending that he was like the special effects guy for the Fantastic Four. We're such a bunch of nerds. I was like the host. I was like going to go meet this like crazy professor who'd like made all these special effects, and then all the special effects were crap. Like the thing was just basically my friend Andy with cornflakes stuck to his face. Anyway, we had nothing much to do. So we did this stupid thing. Anyway, this guy Paul like ends up going to the doctor's surgery in my local town, and he's wearing a Perfect Circle t-shirt, and there's a guy in the doctor's surgery who's like, "Oh, Perfect Circle, like we filmed them the other day." I shouldn't do impressions of him live on stream. Anyway, they got talking about this t-shirt, and he was like, "Oh, I'm setting up this rock music channel. We're looking for presenters. Do you know anyone?" And because we made this stupid little vlog, well, it wasn't even a vlog. It was a stupid video of me pretending to interview someone who made special effects. My mate Paul like just gave this guy my number, and then I went and met him. These days I didn't even wear makeup. I dressed like a proper boy. Didn't wear makeup, nothing. Turned up with like a jumper where I'd bitten part of the sleeve off. That was my level of being fancy. And then met him, had this conversation in a pub. I don't really feel like I said anything. He was then like, "I think you'd be really good." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "But like, you might want to like, you know, sort that out, as in like put some makeup on and maybe don't look like a scuzzy Camden crusty, as was the fashion." And then I went to this audition, and I remember the night before thinking, they're just going to ask me to like say some stuff on camera, but I don't know how to do that or like what to do. And I'd watched Videodrome with Mark Commode the night before, and they were talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I was like, I'm going to remember what he's saying here. And we went in, and anyway, these girls were like coming in and out of this audition and looking like all like glamorous and like latexy. And I was like, what have I signed up for? Like, what is this? Anyway, and they're like, you know, say your name, like talk on camera. And I was like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, and just like, you know, say something to camera. And I was like, thank God I like thought about this, because otherwise I'd be there like, oh God, I don't know what to say. So basically I stole all of Mark Commode's ideas and thoughts about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and passed them off as my own. And then I didn't even know it was like, it wasn't even like I'd specifically angled it knowing that it was a rock show, and if it's rock it's going to be kind of metal, and if it's metal then there's a bit of horror. Like I didn't even think about that. It was just the thing that I watched the night before. I was like, yeah, it's actually a really interesting moment in like cinema history. It's like one of the first instances where you actually see inside the killer's lair. It's very unusual for its time, you know, like thanks Mark Commode. And they got the job, basically. That was it. Completely random and a complete and total fluke. So basically, if my mate Paul hadn't gone to the doctor's surgery or went an hour later, I probably wouldn't be doing this. I mean, I might have gravitated back towards it, but it would have been a really weirdly different journey, I think. Jonathan, any tips for dealing with the nerves that build just before live or starting a stream? or in my case, doing a technical webinar presentation work. Again, what I'd said to Jonathan, breathing. Definitely. Okay, first of all, if you're doing a presentation, so this might be slightly different. If you have to do like a proper presentation where you've got to hit notes, don't learn a script. Never learn a script. Don't do it. It's the most complicated thing. You won't sound natural, all right? Especially if you're presentation of like facts or whatever. Don't learn a script. Have bullet points, because you will always naturally speak better when you're just making up sentences. She says, making a terrible sentence. You'll always do better because you talk all the time in full sentences and people understand you. So don't bother learning a script. Like, only in very specific circumstances is that a useful tool, or if the job demands it. So if you're doing like a presentation, like a webinar, have like some bullet points just somewhere on a table and be like, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about that. And I'm guessing it's on a subject matter that you know about, hence you're doing a presentation. So you know your subject. Like, don't overthink it. Just have a few bullet points there. Have a couple of run-throughs. Like roughly figure out like what you're going to say, what you want to say. Don't over prepare it, and then do those breathing techniques that I talked about, and just say to yourself, this is your job, you know this, right? All you've got to do is get this information across. When I did the TED talk, which was one of the worst versions, one of the most difficult versions of presenting, because it was live, tightly timed. I had slides. I also knew that the subject matter, because it was about sexism and misogyny within gaming, was that if I actually said a word wrong, my entire life would be over. But no pressure, stuff like that. And I was really aware of, I didn't want to get like nerves and feel like odd on the spot, and it's the literal spot. So I just remember like I'd gone out onto the stage like the day before, and I stood there and I tried to kind of like imagine what it was going to be like. And I was like, when you stand on this spot, when you're doing it, you need to be comfortable on this spot. Like, you don't want to leave this spot, because if you feel like you want to leave the place where you're presenting from, like, get me out of here, you're going to speed your words up and they're going to start going like really quick. So you need to be like relaxed, calm, like your body needs to be relaxed. You need to be like, I'm so happy standing right here. Even if you're not, I'm really happy standing like right here. And then you're just going to present in a different way. You're going to come across as calm. Okay, if you're very nervous, a top tip is to put the stress somewhere else. So you can put it into a finger, like put it into a finger. You might see on like RuPaul's Drag Race a lot of the time. RuPaul would like grab the thumb like that and kind of put the pressure into there. Sitting down, it's really useful. You can use it your big toe. Just put all of the pressure and the anxiety into that one spot, and then the rest of your body will relax. It's a really useful tool if you're really kind of freaking out. Although I have had instances like reading out things in churches at like memorials where you're like, or like you're in heels. And then it's impossible to be like balanced, because then like, especially if adrenaline hits, then you're always like a bit shaky. So breathing techniques in those circumstances will really, 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 really help, because it'll just take that extra level of adrenaline out of it. But yeah, don't over prepare, Jonathan. Just relax into it. Shane, okay, I want to get into game development. I'm making games at home. What's the best way to get my game out to people and get feedback to improve my game? I guess just ask them. I mean, like, creation of games is not really my forte. But I think, I don't know, just ask people if they want to play it, if they want to see it. Find people who've got whatever the game's about. Find someone who's got like a similar sort of interest. Or find other people who are making games that are similar to you and be like, hey, I'll play your game, you play mine. What do you think? That kind of thing. Scream Army says, when you first started presenting, did you ever interview someone whose name you couldn't pronounce? Let me think. No, the worst one I ever had, I was doing a Call of Duty live stream with Charlie Sloth, and I had to say, oh my God, Cesar Azpilicueta. That's right. Is it something like that? The footballer? And I was literally in the toilet for like about 20 minutes beforehand, just saying, Cesar Azpilicueta. And then WitcherCon, I actually even think I mispronounced his first name, but like you can only check with who's there. Like I can't, there was a lot of kind of Polish names, and I did my kind of due diligence of checking, with people who are working there, am I getting the pronunciation right? but there's only so much you can do. So I think I said masin, and it's actually mashin. But anyway, sorry, I thought I turned that off. Shush. Sorry. So it's Machin Psibivovic, which is still not the best pronunciation of it, but if you saw how many like K's and Z's and C's in it, you would. I think I did pretty well, all things considered. So just prepping. Like that name, I said to myself like in the 3 days run up, because I was like, I don't want to stumble over this like when we're going live, because that's so prep. And like doing something to the point where it just becomes like really, really natural. And even then on the day, on the prompter, I asked for it to be put in phonetics because it was part of the opening link, and the opening link was quite long. And it was about 3/4 of the way down, and I was like, I'm not doing this whole opening link and then screwing up the end of it. So I was like, just take out, if it was like one of the middle pieces to camera that were like a bit shorter, I would have just kept the name as written. But like, make it easy for yourself. Use the tools you have and the things that you have to get the best possible result. Because at the end of the day, you want to look back at the work that you've done, and nothing will ever be perfect. That's no such thing. But you want to look back at the work that you've done and be like, I did a really good job. So like, use the tools of people around you. Like they're there to help you do that. Good thing. But yeah, Cesar Azpilicueta. Funnily enough, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right the first time, but I'm saying it the same way about 10 years later. Well, it's not 10 years later, but. Okay. Spoon of Doom. Can you apply hosting skills and techniques like the question deflecting one you talked about in real life situations? Oh God, yeah, all the time. If you're in, presenting is all about confidence, right? It's about being able to like talk to anyone about anything. My flatmate is always like, would you stop talking to people? Because I'll just talk to anybody. I'll be like, oh, la, la, la. And he's like, he's totally the opposite. But it's about being able to connect with people and give them a lot of time. If you're interviewing, it's giving people like the space to want to like talk to you and engage with them. And I've always liked talking to people. I've always liked understanding people. I've always liked finding things out. I like conversations. It's like tennis to me. It's an exciting game of like words and finding things out. And it's, I don't know, there's some part of it as well where like I like to read people. This makes me sound like slightly sociopathic or something, but when someone talks to you, they give you so many kind of like different cues in like the words that they use or the way they say it or what their body language is doing. And sometimes when someone answers something, you can be a bit like, there's something else there, and you have the opportunity to kind of dig a little bit deeper, and I find that fascinating, like being able to figure out how people tick. But also I suppose it's connecting with people in some way. It's being able to try and communicate something to somebody in the best possible way or the way that suits the circumstance. And like that is a really useful skill to have just in life. Being able to talk to people and being able to kind of communicate how you want to communicate is just useful. And presenting like really allows you to talk to so many different types of people you never meet. I met an astronaut once. I was like, dude, you've been in space. What the fuck? Like, oh my God. You can meet some really interesting people and get to find out stuff, first-hand accounts from people who've done things, really interesting things. And like that fully fascinates me. I like asking questions. Okay, right. What's the next one? Okay. This is a really good question, actually. Scotty, nay, Hardy. You've been open about being down at times. How do you present when you're down? Does the job itself lift you up, or do you find another way to seem super lively and project smiley at you? Okay. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Okay. So I've had times in my life where on the way to jobs, I've been in tears, and that's really difficult. There's one year at BAFTA that was really difficult. I had some really bad news about my dad's health and all that sort of stuff. I remember when his cancer had like come back, and then I had to go and do this BAFTA thing. And I remember like being in the dressing room beforehand, like in tears. And it's lucky because obviously like Aoife, is there, and like Jane is there, people that I care deeply about. And like, it was nice because like sometimes you could maybe be at a job and be sad. And I probably wouldn't have been upset at the job. Like no one really saw it. It was in my dressing room, but like, because they were there, I sort of felt like I could be a bit sad at that point and then like let it out a bit. Whereas I don't think if they'd been there, I would have done that because I wouldn't know who was there. Normally, if I don't know anyone, you just kind of have to, you sort of have to like suck it up, which in some ways it's good, because then actually while you're at work you sort of bring this veil down of like your personal life is completely removed and you are just at work and this is what you're doing, and you know, you're smiling and you're happy and la la la. The only downside to that is when that job is finished and I get in the car or like I go home, I will feel really terrible afterwards, because it's like you've used up all your serotonin. I've kind of somehow switched it on for the day and been really smiley and la la la, and you know, and presenting isn't just about on camera. You're sort of the best way I can kind of liken it to, it's like it's a bit like being like the host of a dinner party. You sort of have to be kind of like slightly endlessly charming all the time to all the guests. Or I feel like that's what I have to be. I don't know whether that is, but like if you're kind of like walking around not talking to anyone, everyone's a bit like, oh, so moody, and then people think you're like moody or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, it can be really difficult if you feel really bad. I had a moment actually like the other week when I was doing some GT stuff, and I don't know, I just felt really sad, and I just had like a bit of a moment and thought I was gonna like be a bit sad, but I was like, just like breathe it in, go and do the job, distract yourself or whatever. And then I just came home and I just made sure I took a lot of time afterwards. But yeah, it can be difficult because it is quite kind of like high energy. And if I'm just kind of not this version of me, everyone's a bit like, what's wrong with you? Are you all right? And then you're like, don't ask me that question. So it can be tricky. It can be really tricky. And you're supposed to be like happy all the time, which can be a bit like, ding. And people say that it doesn't matter, but it does. You know, it does matter. Dave, who was the best person you've interviewed? Can be the nicest, funniest, most surprising, whatever. Devin Townsend was like the nicest guy ever. He was really cool. I'd ended up like booking my own shoot because I was working at the production company over Christmas to make some extra cash because they paid nothing this job. So I booked my own shoot. The camera guy had turned up at base and not on location, which is not what I told him. Let it go. It was many years ago. So then he was late and we were waiting to interview Devin Townsend. And I was freaking out because I was like, oh God, I'm going to get fired or something. And he was super cool about it. So yeah, he was really, really nice. Who else has been really fun to interview? God, I'm trying to think. I can't remember anyone I've ever interviewed. Oh God, I can't. It'll come to me in a minute. I literally can't remember anyone I've interviewed. I've gone completely blank. I've never met anybody. Hmm. Mumpfna the Irveling. How come when I was a youngster watching you on telly, you seemed quite older than me, but now as an adult, you seem the same age or younger than me? Is it simple witchcraft or voodoo? I drink the blood. No. I think when I first started presenting, I wore way too much makeup because I didn't really know what I was doing. And then when I started doing game face, I thought that's what I was supposed to, how I was supposed to, I was like, I had a makeup, I was like, put lashes on and like, I dressed like really, I don't know. I don't think I ever really understood the female version of me. And I only really ever dressed in a feminine way because of my job. And I remember like when I first started working at Rockwell, they were like, you need to get some clothes that aren't this. This girl's going to take you out shopping. Not that she was paying for it, but she just took me shopping. But she was a goth. So like I ended up coming back with like loads of goth clothing, which, you know, is fine. But I just thought that's what like I thought women's dress was just like a homogenous blob, like women dress like this. And it was like this revelation like years later where I was like, oh, actually women all dress like really differently. I just assumed it was this thing and you had to just wear these things or whatever. I don't know, like feminine clothes never really appealed to me at that time. And just, yeah, I didn't really know what that, I guess that everyone else would have gone through their teenage years and figured out all that stuff, but I didn't because I just dressed like a boy the whole time. So yeah, so I think like it was quite, my answer to the question is like, I think I used to wear like quite a lot of heavy makeup when I did that, which I think actually kind of ages you quite a lot. That, and I've had so much work done. Actually 87. No. And like now I don't know, I feel more like I'm sort of a feminine version of me that I sort of feel okay about. I don't know. I'm just figuring this stuff out. But yeah, in answer to the question, it is a little bit of both, witchcraft and voodoo. I do have a voodoo doll, so Jane gave it to me. It's very useful. Chicago, I'm great, thank you. So I'm just trying to go through the messages. I'm not very good at keeping up with chat in anything I do, by the way. Edward Hoss, what would you say is the best advice for someone like me who's trying to get into freelancing or trying to get a job for presenting or hosting? Well, I suppose the first thing is like, what are you into? The best way into it is to find like your kind of specialty and niche. That's the easiest way, I guess. So whatever it is, if it's games, like what kind of games, what sort of games are you into? Is there like a specific one or whatever, right? And then I guess nowadays the best thing probably to do is just to like practice hosting stuff, but doing like YouTube and Twitch is a really great way to like get a lot of like live hours like under your belt, practice what you're saying, how you're saying it, and like kind of building up that confidence, because you always want to be ready for when a job comes, and you want to have already kind of practiced and trained, you know. So when you do the great job that will inevitably come to you, then you can basically be totally badass and smash it and get more work. So I would say, if you're like right at the beginning, Edward, I would say just use like YouTube and Twitch and stuff, like whether that's doing live stuff or whether you're making videos. Videos are also a really great way of doing that, because you can practice. Honestly, watching yourself back on camera is probably one of the most important things to do, because I used to do really weird things with my mouth, like go, and I still sometimes do it, and I don't know why I do it. I didn't really notice that until I watched it back, and I was like, what the hell am I doing with my mouth? Why is it getting pulled off to the side like someone's pulling a string? It looks really weird. Stop that. But just sort of like how you talk and how you present yourself and how you come across. It's really good things to learn, and you need to get over being embarrassed on camera, and you need to get over the cringe of watching yourself. You have to get past that. If you don't get past those things, you won't ever get anywhere. You know, so you have to do it. It's like a band-aid. Just overkill. Watch yourself all the time. Look at it back. Try and mimic, like, whether it's like, try different types of presenting, from like, you know, doing a kind of cheesy TV show to like a live show to something else, you know, like try different styles of presenting and how you do it in sort of different ways. It's a useful thing to do, because you need to be able to tell yourself that you can do it on the spot. And how would you know if you could do it unless you do it? My first ever job for this rock channel, I got taken to Germany to go to this industrial noise festival and report from there. It all felt a bit Euro trash. We turned up in Germany, and I was fine all the way there. And then we got to Germany, and I was like, they've just hired me as a presenter. Like, I don't know what that is. What the hell does that mean? How do I do a piece to camera? I don't even know what that is. And I was like, they're going to ask me to like do some sort of introduction in a minute, and I'm going to freak out because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I went to a bathroom and then stood in there and was like, okay, we'll just make up something now that you would say later, so that when they ask you to do it later, it's like fine. So I was like, okay. So I worked out like a piece to camera. And then they made me walk backwards doing it, going into the club. I was like, that's mean even for like a presenter now, walking backwards doing it. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. I'll find it one day. It's like the cringiest thing in the entire world. Oh yeah, and I was so bad. I couldn't stop clapping. I was like, hey, like we're here in Germany, da 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 da. And they're like, great. Can you stop clapping? I was like, sure. Hey, we're here in Germany. Da, da, da. He's like, seriously, stop clapping. I'm like, am I clapping? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay. Literally did the same thing again. I kid you not. One of the guys on the crew was like, here's 2 lighters. Hold them in your hand because you're incapable of not clapping. So I was like, hey, I'm here in Germany. It's literally the worst thing that's ever been put on television ever. But, you know, I mean, talk about like trial by fire. Benty, what accessories do you wear when you're hosting? Not a lot, particularly. I don't really like a lot of accessories. I'll have like maybe like a ring, a watch, maybe a necklace. Nothing too much. Also, like necklaces get in the way of microphones. So if you've got a clip mic, you've got to be really careful that it just rattles on it, because it's pointless otherwise. I did interview Evanescence. That's right, Shane. Yes. Thank you, Warm Shingai. Oh, Unwise Wings. Yeah. So that was Game Face and The Blurb with the gaming shows that I used to do. Yes. Any thoughts on the Activision Blizzard lawsuit? Well, that's a whole different thing, right? Let's maybe not get into that. I mean, I think you all know what my opinion of that is. Yeah, Jan, so cool. I'm glad you're going to try the breathing technique. Honestly, sometimes just getting in your head is like much harder. You know, sometimes when you just kind of get thrown in, like honestly, we all talk all the time. Oh, thank you, Mumpfna, the Irveling. Oh, thank you. I don't know what super chat is. I don't know. I don't even use this often. And it's not really about money. I just wanted to like have an opportunity to like talk about this stuff. Yeah. But then you see, the thing is though, if you prefer it and you can do it when it's like impromptu, you can do it anyway. It's just all it is in your head. So much of presenting is like psychosomatic and about not freaking out and being in your head about things, you know? Because you can do it, but your brain is just a pissy little bitch sometimes. You just got to tell it to shut up. Doesn't know you. It doesn't know what's best for you. And sometimes it needs to be quiet so that you can just be badass and amazing. Edward Halts, what would you say are top tips for improving a CV or portfolio? Well, first of all, you don't need any of those things if you want to do presenting. You just need a show reel. So record some of your own stuff, do your own thing, reach out, do jobs for free, whatever it takes to like build up that show reel. I took a lot of the stuff from the rock music channel that I had, and then I was like, oh, it's a bit too like of all the same thing, and like where else is there's like Kerrang, and like maybe Scuzz or whatever where I could go and work, but that's like 2 places, so I need some other options. So I actually went out and like recorded some other links like myself of just other stuff, made some stuff up, which wasn't the best, but I got an agent through that. So yeah. Okay. Oh, that's all right, Chewbacca boy. I'm sure it's like fine. Wait, it keeps jumping up. Hold on one sec. Adds commode thief to the wiki. Yeah. Dev, question for what you felt when you asked to be presenter in the GT Olympic Games. I mean, it was great. I mean, I never thought I was going to do something sort of like Olympics-y. That was pretty mad. And it meant so much to them as well, like all of the competitors, because it just had a totally different vibe to it. It was funny, and like some of the guys who are, you know, just absolute weapons normally, sort of like slightly crumbled, I think, under the pressure, because it was like it's for the Olympics, right? Everyone wants that one. But it was really great. Mumpfner, yeah, so I started presenting like, wow, young-ish, I think. But yeah, no one I knew was working in the media, like literally nobody. I had like literally 0 contacts of anyone. And that's sort of why it took me like a long time to sort of get to kind of here, because it just took, if you don't know people, I feel like it's a really different time now. You can really connect so easily with other people who are similar about what passions you're kind of like into. You just used to feel like you were like alone in the dark if you had like a vague interest, like back in the day. It was weird, you know. Or you just hang out in Camden and find some other people who are like into the weird same punk band that you were, or whatever, you know. Oh, thanks, Shane. I enjoyed my TED talk. Funny story, that was the night of the EU referendum. That night, I was in my hotel room watching all of that unfold. I was like, I need to turn this off. I need to learn my lines. I went to the auditorium the next day, and everyone's like, hey, Julia, how you doing? Because this is in Canada, right? I was like, yeah. I was like, cool. Went to bed, like, had a prime minister and was like part of Europe, but like, now not so much. I was like, I'll keep the slides. I'll work around it. But yeah, I think honestly the reason why it felt better with the TED talk was because I'd spent that time on the spot, and I was like, you need to stand here like you don't want to leave. And it just changed the pace of how I did it. I also ran the lines for that. Not specifically, it wasn't a script, but just every beat that had to happen. Drink. That's what happens. Listen to the longest siren of your life. She was quite quick, actually. Sometimes it goes on for there's quite a long tail to it. Yes, Miss Cos, I presume, yes. Am I married? No, not even vaguely close to ever doing that. Notes or cues. Surely relieving the pressure is not enough if you forget what to say. Okay, so So notes and stuff. Okay, if you really, really, really have to go on stage and have something like in your hands or whatever, right? But you don't want to look like you've got anything. And like if I'm interviewing someone and you want to keep it as much like a chat as possible, right? Especially if you're interviewing game devs and stuff like that, who well, no one actually really likes being interviewed that much. Some people do, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people feel really awkward. So you want to keep it as much like a chat as possible. The worst thing you can do is be like, "How do you feel about blah 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 blah?" And then they answer, and you're like, "So, like, what are you doing?" They're going to just be really uncomfortable, and you'll just get terrible answers. So what sometimes I do is I'd get, hold on, let me see if I've got one in here. So get like a little cue card or something like this. So say you want to interview someone, but you're like, okay, I want to make sure I ask like these 6 questions. I'd cut this up or whatever, fold it, maybe even a bit smaller than that, cut it and fold it, right? So it's like a little square. So if I want to keep it really casual and like I haven't got any notes, stick it in the palm of your hand, write, I don't know, 8, you could probably fit about 8 keywords on it. So say, especially if you've got like a stick mic or something like this, right? You can be like talking to someone and do that, and you can literally just flick your hand down, look at the next question and be like, yeah, keeping that eye contact, making sure that you're listening to them. And you should always listen to someone when you're interviewing them. You only think about the next question, you want to be like, right, that's what I'm doing, right, okay. You know, I've had times where like people like talk in my ear over the answers and I'm like, no. You have to be reacting to what they're saying. You have to be listening to what they're saying. Because they might say something and you're like, hang on, he sort of skirted around something or other. And you can kind of probe a bit more. And it's generally the first level questions never get the responses that you want. It's the subsequent follow-up question you ask to that first one because of how they've answered it or whatever, because you really want to hone in on like finding out a specific thing. That's where you get the best things. I once got Rob Flynn from Machine Head to say he used the enemy as toilet paper. It was one of my shining moments. Just through like taking it to like the next level and to the next level. Jan's like, let's see what these super chats were. I don't fucking know. I barely tube the Ube always. Anyway, Chewbacca boy, pizza or sushi? Oh, well, we all know that the grading system for life is pizza, as anyone else who's watched any of my streams knows. But also I do love sushi. If I got stuck eating one cuisine for the rest of my life, it would probably be Japanese. I'd never get bored of that, like ever. Yeah. Oh, Connor knows the Chelsea defender. I was like, why is someone written Chelsea defender? And I remember it's about to say that. Bit of Guaita. See, I can say it. It took me a really long time. Yeah, Ixion. Yeah, some people don't want to be read, but like, also I think like sometimes people are like, as long as you're kind of friendly and chatty about something, you can, okay, if you want to get away with asking a really difficult question, if you grin like a goon when you ask it, this is a useful thing. If you grin like an idiot when you ask it, people answer most things. You could be like, so why aren't you performing as well this season? It just, maybe not with those exact words, but you can get away a lot like looking like a goofy idiot. Also, another really good top tip is if you're interviewing someone who like looks like they are a bit nervous. So first of all, whenever you interview anyone, you always need to start talking to them before the interview starts about bollocks, about nothing, about anything. Also, tell them like what you're going to ask them, because then they can kind of like chill out. For some reason people think that like you're going to trick them or something. If I was with someone who's like really nervous, I would tell a story where I came across like an idiot, and then they just relax, and then you can ask them whatever you like, especially with like big rock stars like that, because then they don't see you coming. I could tell you some stories about some people alpha mailing and me winning, but perhaps not on live stream because they're still around. Okay, so am I miles behind on the stream? Hold on, where are you guys?
It keeps jumping.
Oh, when did I meet? Oh, Luke says, when did you meet some of the other game streamers like Jane, Mike, Andy, or Aoife? Do you share tips? Actually, we don't talk. I mean, I'll talk about like the business of presenting with Jane a lot and Aoife a lot. Jane is one of the first people that I met in games. There was they made a live action movie of Assassin's Creed or something like a million years ago. Not the movie thing, but like before that. And we'd gone along to that, and it's when she was working at MSN Tech. And I remember because I always put people's jobs next to their names, and then I never change it. So Jane is still just Jane MSN Tech in my phone, because I kind of like it. I've still got like an eBay John in there. You know, it's fun. And bearing in mind that there may be three or no, there's about like four women who worked in games at that point. Like, I think like Keza McDonald and Ellie Gibson. Wait, there's one other. Who have I forgotten? Yeah, there's like literally four or five, maybe like Lee Alexander and someone else. Although I never really met Lee till later. Shit, who am I missing? So we like literally clung onto each other like limpets in a storm because there were literally no other women. That's when I first met Jane. And then we've been friends like ever since. That was a million years ago. And then she went from MSN Tech. It was when she was started to do Sent You a Message with Andy and everyone, obviously. So that's how I sort of like met them. And then Mike was just around because he worked for outside, not outside Xbox. What's that? Official Xbox magazine or whatever. Basically, it was all quite small. We saw each other all the time. This was when gaming, we'd have like lots of events and stuff like that. And Aoife came to work at Jinx when I was doing Game Face, the TV show. So she was helping write review scripts and stuff like that for the channel that we work for. And then, yeah, we just like became friends, really. And then sort of been friends ever since. Miss Cos, what are some of the ways you can break into the TV presenting and casting? Again, just being in the, like, find your kind of, what I would say is the easiest way to do it is just to find your specialty and kind of cut your teeth there, get good at what you're doing and talk about things that you know about and you know kind of inside and out, and you can sort of spread out from there and sort of gaining. What I didn't do was like, by not staying in a singular place, I don't really have a lot of like online synergy. I don't have that same, like a lot of my peers will have, you know, because they've been in there, you know, making that same kind of like content and been in the same place for like a while, and you can grow that community. That's not really been my journey. I've been kind of all over the place, so I don't get that kind of like, you know, tens of thousands of likes like Jane will get for stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? That's not kind of how it works for me. But it's a really good way of like, in some ways maybe that's what well, no, I don't think I'd change my career, but I think I could have had a similar career, and I've seen lots of people do things, you know, where they'll go and like work for IGN and they'll build up a following from there, and then that allows them to kind of go into lots of other different types of presenting, whereas I've just gone a really weird ass other route. So I think maybe that way is a more surefire way of doing it. And there's certain jobs, especially at IGN, like anyone who kind of like goes and works there and does on camera stuff can then literally go into like a million other places, if that's what you want to do, but maybe you just want to stay in games. I would say, yeah, definitely cut your teeth somewhere that can pay you a wage, great, and train you, also great. And then you can figure out what kind of stuff you like about presenting and what you don't like, and then sort of take it from that moment to kind of go where you want, really. Yeah. Spooner Doom. If not presenting, what would have been my second choice of job or career? I studied photography. I did a degree in it. Still haven't paid it off yet. Oops. They keep asking for money. God. Edward, these are all really good. Most kind of video games, Lego, major sporting events like the Olympics. And university also got some experience in radio presenting as well as a bit of camera work. I mean, also like radio stuff is great. I mean, like getting onto like being at like Radio 1, if you're like a proper like Radio 1 presenter, you then can go on and like do a whole load of TV stuff. But I think it's quite difficult to become like a main Radio 1 presenter without having a real passion for radio. Like they want people with a real passion for radio. But it is a good way of like practicing live chat and, you know, mixing and all that sort of stuff. Dream Forager. I don't play any tabletop roleplay games. I still haven't played D&D yet, which, you know, to like Jane and Aoife is like sacrilegious, and they keep threatening to drag me into things. But yeah. Hello, Mr. Harry Gray. Hello. Have I been ever given on Wise Wings any unique gifts from Rockstar Games? Anything like that, really? No, I interviewed the houses though after BAFTAs when Rockstar like won like best person in the world, whatever, but they got it for the whole studio. And I sort of like, I wish the houses had like spoken more about games because they're so passionate, and there aren't that many people who are kind of recognizable and that overtly passionate and eloquent about games in the same way. So yeah. Anyway. Am I hopeful or skeptical for GTA 6? Yeah, there'll be a GTA 6, it'll be fine. Well remembered, Chewbacca boy. Yes, I did do some old Xbox videos. I remember once, actually, yeah, I think it was GTA. I started a punch fun run where you just go around punching people and then it turns into a fun run. It was quite funny. Um, Shiny Silvery, you're natural discussing games with co-presenters and guests on the BAFTA Games Awards. Do you binge play through all the nominated games or watch back through playthroughs to check out what they have to offer? So I'm on the BAFTA jury pretty much every year, so I'll be doing like different categories. It might be best game, it might be best British game. I try and play as much as I can during the year anyhow. But like, yeah, I'll have like these different so I will have known like all the ones like within my category or whatever. But also I've got kind of like a basic knowledge of pretty much most of the games that come out during the year. Whether I've played them or not, I will have had conversations with people about them in some way or shape or form. So if it's like holding a bit of chat in the conversation about some particular game, I'll know like what the USP is, what people were happy or sad about, that kind of thing about the game. But then also, you know, I'm not, when I do the BAFTA streams, I'm not really there to be the expert. Obviously I kind of chuck in my perspective and 2 cents, but that's why I'll have like the other people there with me to get them to basically go like deeper into the subject of the games, and I sort of balance the chat. It's sort of weird, like when you're kind of doing main hosting, sometimes like I think like really early on I had to learn that like it's not about me, you know, like that's not why anyone's there. No one's there for you, Julia. Okay, you are there basically just to facilitate everyone else. So whether that's making the person incredibly comfortable so that they feel comfortable enough to talk by kind of charming them and making them feel relaxed, or whether that's making sure that the conversation kind of flows and everyone's getting a chance to speak, like you are the facilitator. Your job is to get what the director wants out of the show, right? Like you are there to kind of facilitate that sort of like vision of it. So it can be like really tempting to want to show off. It can be really tempting, especially if you're meeting like celebrities and things like that, to be like, oh my God, and I did this, la 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 la. Like, no, you are literally there to facilitate them, you know. And that's quite a hard thing to kind of get your head around, especially if you want to showboat. Keeps jumping. Thank you all for these lovely donations. You really don't have to. It wasn't really about money. I just wanted to give you a chance to ask questions, really. But thank you, Edward. That's really sweet. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Luke. Edward, what's the best setup to start streaming on Twitch or YouTube? Okay, again, I am shit at all of these things. I have the most lo-fi everything in the whole world. I think just, you know what? Keep it simple to start with. Don't overthink it. I think when I started doing YouTube and Twitch, I was like, I need to do all these things and like make it really complicated. And actually pick a thing, stick to the thing, and just get good at the thing, you know, and then incrementally make that stream better if you can. Again, I'm not the expert in YouTube and Twitch, as you can see. Okay. You spoony bod. Everyone's going to look at Julia checking her hand for the next live interview. Yes. And 10 out of 10 for pizza. Pineapple on pizza. Yeah, no, you know what? I don't think I've ever tried it. But I do put honey on pizza sometimes. So, like, pizza is my favorite thing. But, like, if I had to stick with just one cuisine, like, and that was it, I couldn't eat pizza all day, every day for the rest of my life. I couldn't do it. Japanese food, yes, I could. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't love pizza. You guys all know I love pizza. But, what's my favourite old school point and click adventure game? Oh yeah, Dave, nod your head. Yes, when you interview people, if they're really struggling, nod your head. If it's on a 2-shot, you look completely crazy, but they will keep answering the question more and talk more if you do this. It's weird. Don't know why it works. It's fucking peculiar, but it literally works every time. Favourite old school point and click adventure game? I tried to replay a lot of these and I wasn't much as a fan. I think the nostalgia point has passed, but Day of the Tentacle I think was my favourite one growing up. Were there any interviews that fell through that you were really looking forward to? Space Cornet asks. So, all the time I worked at Rockworld, I am like, well, I suppose I still am, but at the time I'm a massive Mike Patton fan. Huge. And I was like this close to getting to interview him, and then it didn't happen. I was like mortified. Don't get me wrong, I got to interview some pretty big bands at Rockwell, which was cool. But like Mike Patton was my guy, you know? Like I like Faith No More since day. Well, not since day, I'm not. But you know, close enough. What a Patreon tier of like stories I can't discuss on stream. Well, look, if we do our Patreon movie night, you can ask me again and I'll tell you. I feel like I've told you these stories about these guys anyway, but whatever. How do you go about getting your demo real? It should be real, not wheel, but seen by people. Something I've been struggling with is I have a portfolio, but not sure how to get eyes on it. Really sorry if this has been asked before. So it's presenting stuff, right? I'm presuming. So I don't know. I mean, the best way to get work is sort of to get work, which is weird. Like it's great having a show reel, but actually what you want is the jobs, okay? So making connections and meeting people within those communities and then saying like, oh, actually, like if you need some presenting stuff, here's like, that's when you throw it out there. You need to sort of kind of get the little inroads in and then kind of be like, well, here's actually some of the stuff that I've done. Like if you need anything, that kind of thing. But like getting into those sort of like places you want to be with stuff that you know about is probably the best thing. Because you can't just like spam people with it because like everyone's busy. It's not going to work. You need to create solid connections so that people will be like, actually, you know what? Yeah. So even if it's like, I don't know, like you're into Fortnite or whatever, being within that community, commenting on different things, saying different things, being part of it, blah, 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 blah. And then when an opportunity comes, you can be like, well, actually, like, here's my show reel. Do you know what I mean? But you can't, like, cold calling doesn't really work that well. Mumpfner, that herbling. When interviewing people, do you notice telltale signs when it feels like someone's looking to the right, they're telling a lie? No, I think people are like, everyone has kind of different tells and stuff. You can see when someone's like slightly uncomfortable about talking about things. But like, I would, God, what was it? I was interviewing someone like Ubisoft. What game was it? Oh, shit. Oh, it wasn't Far Cry. Oh god, I was interviewing a guy from like Ubisoft, and it was a way that he said something, and he looked like really shifty, and I was like, oh my god, I'd like made a joke about like some like fictional DLC, and he like said he was like no, and I was like there is this DLC, and started shouting. He was like shut up, no there's not, you can't. Yeah, anyway, but the thing is that you can't really call them out. I mean, you're not like a lot of what I do. I'm not like Jeremy Paxman. I'm not interviewing like politicians. It's not about ripping people down. You can maybe like pick apart at stuff and like try and find out a bit more like information and see what they're saying. But yeah, you can't really be like, hey, you're a liar, even if they sort of feels like they are. Lots of good life things. Answers. What about overcoming absolutely life-stopping fear of stepping in front of folks? Oh, I mean, it's all to do with kind of breathing. It's all to do with practice. It's all to do with being like kind of prepared. And the only way you're ever going to get over your fear is by being brave and doing it. Basically, you just have to do it. Prep as much as you can. Mentally prepare yourself as much as you can. Do some breathing techniques, and then try it with like a few small people, and then up the amount of people. But the only way to get over stuff is to be brave and just to do it, and then you'll get the confidence to do it. Because once you've done it once, the first time will always be the worst, and then it's easier, and then it's easier, and then it's easier, and you can tell yourself each time like you've done this before, you know how to do it, it's fine, and it's calming in a way. Shiny Silvery. I'm amazed by how many people seem to get into broadcasting visual arts on accident and become so good at it, yet have this feeling of imposter syndrome. Is this you too? I did for a really long time, but like I spent so long, this makes me sound like really conceited, but I spent a really long time trying to get better at my job. And like, I know I'm good at my job because I take real pride in being good at my job, you know? I think the only time I sort of felt imposter syndrome was when I was kind of doing gaming stuff. And I think it was very much a female thing where I felt like I wasn't gamey enough, like I didn't have enough gaming knowledge because you're constantly being keeped by people, you know, like, and I remember having friends at the time being like, but you love playing games. Like, you're allowed to be in this space, you know, but you feel like you didn't know enough. I didn't know everything about it, but then you don't know everything about it. And you never will. But I just got to the point where I was like, I'm good at presenting. I don't have to know absolutely everything. You know, if I don't know something, I can research it before I do it. It's not about being the smartest person in the room, you know? Oh, Sydney. So honey on pizza. Yeah, get yourself a margarita pizza, put some chili on it and some honey, then come back to me and tell me what you think. It's fucking amazing. Benty, regarding accessories, what watch do you use the most? Why are you obsessed with the watch? I just have like an Apple Watch. It's quite boring. Well, cool. Oh wait, I didn't even go through like all the questions. Shit. Hold on a minute. All right. Let's go through these. How do I get over anxiety over moving long distance? That's not really super relevant. How do you cope with speaking clearly while someone is talking in your ear? Okay, so Nick Gibbons asked this question. So when you're using an in-ear piece, they shouldn't be talking to you when you're talking. I mean, unless it's like go to camera two or like camera two or like a very short phrase or sentence. I've had people who've like started sentences and like if it's a sentence, I have to listen to what it is to work out what I was saying. And there's no way, it's like impossible to keep a straight conversation going if someone's saying that. So really, if they need to tell you something, it's like when someone's replying, but like they need to keep it short and succinct to the point. Just be like, after this, go next question. Right, fine. I've missed like three words out of what that person's saying. I can listen to everything else. Street Pato, would you ever play D&D? It'd be cool to see you as a guest on Oxventure. I would. I just have never gotten around. What's my favourite ice cream? I don't know if that's particularly about presenting. Mint. I like mint ice cream or salted caramel or peanut butter. Netflix and chilled is kind of my favourite one at the moment. What's your favourite thing to watch when you're feeling sad? Oh, I just have like a rotation of movies. What do I watch now though? I don't know why. I really like biopics. But that's usually if I'm hungover. What do I watch when I'm sad? Like Parks and Rec, of course. I've recently been watching a whole bunch of Kimmy Schmidt. I missed a whole bunch of it out. Usually something like, I don't know, silly. I don't think we've got time to go through all the origin stories of my tattoos. Kiki the Vape Panther says, what's the best part of hosting? The feeling when you do, like, I love live. Oh, thanks, Dave Law. That's really sweet of you. Yeah, one of the best things is I love the feeling after live, like I'm addicted to it. There's this particular sense of like self-satisfaction when you know you've like nailed a job. I love it. I love being in the moment. I like being the host. You're sort of in control of everything that's kind of going on. I don't know what that says about me. But I love that feeling, like when it's going really well, or like when a chat is going really well and you're just super vibing. Like at WitcherCon, it was really complicated because there was like loads of the cast there. And I've got to kind of flick between like these viewer questions and stuff like that. But like when the chat goes and you can sort of like, they're telling their stories, but there's like enough where I can kind of just interject a little something or tease a little something and everyone's just kind of vibing off each other. That's such a great feeling. Such a great feeling. I love that so much. How did I meet Jane? Oh yeah, I've said that story. I've done that one. How to get into TV. What's the worst incident of mansplaining you've ever experienced, says Kit the bass player. I had someone explaining to me how to pronounce Forza when I was doing Radio 1, and I was like, they like tweeted in being like, it's Forza. I was like, I literally know the guys, I work for Xbox, and you're explaining to me like how to pronounce Forza, and then I got in trouble. Radio 1 were like, I think you were too rude to him. I was like, he's literally mansplained to me on the air. Like, if I was a dude, he would not have said that. A Devil Candy asks, do you get nervous on stage even though you've been doing it years, and then asked for some tips. Obviously, I've given like my best tips there, but I don't get so nervous anymore, really. Like if I do like GT Live, no. If I do Xbox Live, no. But then it's all like kind of within my wheelhouse, and I've done it like a bunch of times, so that's when it sort of goes. WitcherCon, it wasn't too bad. I didn't want to balls it up because I love The Witcher, and I didn't want to do like a disservice to The Witcher because best game ever. But it was more like I knew my shit. I practiced on the prompt. I knew the script. I knew what was going on. I'd said Machin Przybyvovich about 400 times. So I was medium confident that I was going to say it right when I did it. So, yeah. What's been your all-time favourite gig hosting? Probably, I mean, like most recently, definitely WitcherCon. That was... No, but then Top Gear Gaming Show. Fuck. I've had some really good jobs lately. It's been bloody brilliant. Like, honestly, Top Gear Gaming Show's like dream come true. Blue for Brendan says, did you get to meet Henry Cavill? No, he was supposed to come to WitcherCon and then he was in America and I wasn't salty about it at all. Medieval K says, you have a very beautiful dress for WitcherCon. Thanks. It was actually pantsuit thing, but whatever. Have you, Tej Joffus says, have you ever had to fight the giggles while live? Not on like a live show, but you've probably seen that co-optional podcast that always seems to get. That was one of the funniest things in the entire world. Literally everyone in my house was like, what the fuck are you doing? Or like the entire podcast was just us laughing for about 45 minutes. It seems like I think we answered like about 3 questions about video games, and then we got onto the subject of sex boxes, and then it all went out the window. Least favourite part of presenter life, says, I think it's Hannah Milligan. My least favourite part of presenter life, like I love connecting with people and I love being able to talk to people. I hate the gamification of social media, and I hate the fact that we can't help but attribute arbitrary value to people in terms of numbers to denote their worth. I find it incredibly like offensive that everyone's given this arbitrary number, but I understand that for my job it's something that I have to do, because people look at your social media profile and stuff like that. But like I like stories because I can just be kind of like really honest with everyone and just chat. Yeah, there's so many negative sides to it that I find not so great, but that's probably my least favorite thing. But it's funny because I enjoy it in some ways, but also then I sort of hate it at the same time. I hate that sort of arbitrary value, and it is like a weird gamer score that I know, like if I wanted to make it more and to have a better reach and a better engagement and all of those things, I know exactly what I'd have to do. I just don't want to do it. Like, I mean, I explained to you, I was like very kind of tomboyish. I find the male gaze a bit like, I don't know, I don't really want that or kind of like need that. And I've kind of struggled with that a lot because there's this sort of like weird balance where I have to be kind of appreciative of it if you want to like grow social media. But like, I don't know, it's never kind of quite sat right with me. And I think I'm sort of at the point where this is sort of the level of myself that I'm willing to give and to show. I don't know. You have to have a point where you can't do something that contradicts fundamentally with who you are, because that's too much to give. But I like the stuff that I do now. I like the way I interact with people now. And I know I'm not great at like growing social media, and I'm not great at keeping up with things like YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that. But I enjoy what I do, you know. I know I'm not going to be the best at it, but I can't. I don't know. I haven't got that. I don't want to be famous enough to give that part of me up. I don't know. That's not a very good explanation. But yeah, that's the part that I kind of like dislike, sort of like the least really, is this endless nonsense game. It's just bollocks, isn't it? I like talking to people, you know, and connecting with people. Yeah. Okay, what have I missed? Yeah, so thanks, Dave. I do have a very sweet tooth, Mumpfner. Okay. Oh yeah, Dave, the Forza name. Oh my god. Yeah, you Speedy Bud. I did. They called me up on it, Radio One. They were like, "You were really harsh." I was like, "He's literally mansplained to me live on air. Like, I can't. I wasn't even that rude. I was just like, I literally work for the company. I've had like the head of the person who makes the game be like, Forza. I work for Xbox. You don't know anything. Do you know what I mean? I don't even think I said that. No. So it's like a pantsuit thing. So it's like a all-in-one onesie. I can't think of words anymore. I've lost the ability to speak. Does my accent ever tend to shine through when you get excited? I just have an accent all the time. It doesn't change. Oh, thanks, Mumpfner. All right, okay, it's almost like 9:30. I've been talking for like fully an hour and a half. I think that's probably enough of me talking about bollocks. But if there's other questions that you have, like, hit me up. I mean, if there is a whole bunch more, I can do another live stream, but maybe that's like slight overkill. I don't know how many questions people would have about this sort of stuff. But look, jumpsuit, that's the bloody word I'm looking for. Thank you, Callum. Yeah, okay. Well, look, thank you for joining me. I hope this was like medium useful. If there's some kind of vaguely useful tools to you all. I'm going to go now and watch some cruddy TV and fall asleep. I think it's been a very long day. Oh, thanks, BJ. Have you only just turned up, mate? You're well out of date. What are you saying, BJ? Yeah, thanks for joining. I hope it's useful. Again, like if there's anything else I can help with, let me know. I just sort of feel like I've got a whole bunch of useless knowledge that may as well be imparted. BJ, yes, I am excited for Life Outside Lockdown. What are you offering? Thanks so much. Anyway, BJ, we got to go for that coffee at some point. I know I meant to, and I forgot to text you, etc. Whatever. Oh yeah. So. Friday feels can't be at the right time. I've got to shoot another episode of Top Gear gaming show, so I'm going to try and maybe do it Thursday. But just if anyone's here, that might be what's happened. But yes, I'll. Okay, cool, Brad. All right. Thanks, guys. That was really nice. And just turn up. Well, I'm leaving now, BJ. Sorry. Awesome. Thank you for being lovely. Thank you for the donations. It was really not necessary in any way. Maybe next time I'll do it like for charity or something. I don't want to take your money unnecessarily without cause. But thank you. I do appreciate it. It's really sweet of you. And yes, all go and join the Discord if you want to. Wait, where's FML Vandal? Is he here? He needs to post that up. We don't do bots. We do real life people. It's probably on my Linktree thing on Twitter or something if you're really that interested. Anyway, lovely. Have a lovely evening. And yeah, I will see you. Good luck, Callum. I will see you all soon.